So I've seen a number of videos and blog posts lately from people who are post RFF phalloplasty, which is radial forearm flap phalloplasty, um, talking about the difficulty that they've had living with such a visible scar and kind of the emotional turmoil that it's caused them. And I'm creating this not to be contrarian or invalidating, but just because I want to provide a counter narrative. There tends to be a lot of selection bias online talking about bottom surgery. People who have had easy recovery experiences don't typically go online to tell their stories because they don't really have a need to. They don't need solidarity. And people who have had difficult journeys physically or emotionally have a greater need for that community support. So I am 5 months post phalloplasty with Dr. Chen in San Francisco. Here is my arm. So I really like having my arm scar. It makes me feel very proud. I I've always been pretty proud of my trans identity, and I've always liked engaging in trans spaces and queer spaces as a trans person. But before surgery, that joy and affirmation that it brought me was always kind of twinged with a feeling of shame. And just a trigger warning, because I'm going to talk about, anatomical parts. Whenever I was talking to my trans friends or to a cis person who knew I was trans, I would be plagued by the almost intrusive thought that they knew that I had a vagina. And, they don't think about it really. I didn't think about it that much. But I knew. And that was not something I was comfortable with. I completely, subscribe to all the rhetoric about how having or liking or engaging with in any way your vagina doesn't really have any bearing on the validity of your identity, your gender identity. Um, but I don't believe that there's any universal truth about transness. And I believe that was the truth for other people, for the people around me. And I still do. I still respect that language that we've created. But I couldn't rationalize my dysphoria away, so it wasn't the truth for me. I always felt like I was being humored when people used that language on me. So the scar kind of represents freedom from that shame and that discomfort. I trans people look at me and they see my scar, and I know that they know that I have a cock, which is great. It's just a very good feeling to walk into a trans space and just be the dude with the penis, which might make me kind of a dick, but it's very liberating, and the scar kind of represents that liberation that I experienced through surgery, and it's a reminder of that to myself and to kind of people around me. I also think that as trans masculine people, we have kind of a struggle in which we don't have a choice whether or not we want to assimilate into cis society. As time goes on, all of our trans features are typically kind of subsumed by transition. And this scar represents kind of a visible reminder to myself about my transness. It doesn't cause cis people to clock me. It's not something I'm worried about. But I look at it and I remember this part of me that's made me so strong. And the intensity of it kind of represents the intensity, but also the strength of my transness. I'm not sure if that's a word. So that's just my experience. I don't think that everybody should necessarily look at the visible scar that RFF leaves as something that's inherently negative. It will be for some people, just by nature, but it isn't necessarily the universal truth. So, just something to consider, I guess.